Mackenzie Johnston with Cattle News Central, bringing you your March 2nd cattle industry headlines. Brought to you by Ag Risk Advisors. They provide risk management programs to livestock producers all across the West. Whether you are concerned about price or weather risk, Ag Risk Advisors, they are here to help. With current day market fluctuations, there is nothing more important than locking in a price floor on your cattle. So if you would like to learn more about an LRP, go ahead and reach out to an advisor today. Also sponsored by American Beef Producer Magazine. They offer in-depth articles on a wide variety of topics within our industry. They feature award-winning photography and so much more within their publication. If you'd like to check out their most recent edition, their March edition, all you got to do is click on the American Beef Producer link above in the caption. That will take you to their Facebook page. When you get there, just click on the post at the top of the page, and that will take you to where you can check out the March edition. American Beef Producer Magazine, guiding beef producers for over 25 years. And finally, Branded Buzzworm Apparel. They can put your ranch logo or brand on just about anything, from hoodies to hats to t-shirts to laser engraved mugs, you name it. They can do it. Click on the Branded Buzzworm Apparel link above in the caption. That will take you over to their Facebook page where you can learn what they're all about. You can send them a message with all of your questions. Or if you'd like, you can just head over to their website, brandedbuzzworm.com. According to Meeting Place, Rabobank recently released a report on global beef demand in the first quarter. The report showed that strong consumer demand and limited supplies have resulted in higher retail beef prices around the globe, but cost pressures are also creeping into the supply chain. In the fourth quarter of 2021, U.S. retail beef prices were 23% higher compared with the 5-year average, mostly the result of heightened demand that created an imbalance in the market. Inflation continues to impact the beef supply chain, with labor costs, labor shortages, freight expenses, and energy price hikes driving beef prices up. When it comes to cost increases, it is expected that some may be permanent, such as costs associated with labor and sustainability. However, costs for freight, energy, and feed, they are cyclical, and Rabobank is expecting that they might decline as 2022 goes on. I will believe that when I see it. With beef prices getting so high and tightness in the global beef market increasing, consumers may start to substitute other proteins, or they may reduce their overall beef consumption. There have even been signs in the first quarter of this year that consumers are reaching their limit for what they are willing to pay for beef. Some good news: despite the unrest between Russia and Ukraine, that conflict should not have a major impact on global beef markets, either in terms of demand or prices. But unfortunately, the cattle market has yet to get that memo. Reuters has reported that on Monday, conservative U.S. Supreme Court justices questioned the federal government's authority to issue sweeping regulations to reduce carbon emissions from power plants. The court, which is a 6-3 conservative majority, has shown concern toward broad federal agency actions. So they are now questioning the EPA's authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions from existing coal and gas-fired power plants under the Clean Air Act. If a ruling occurred that restricted the EPA's authority, that might hinder the Biden administration's ability to curb the power sector's emissions. God forbid. This would obviously cause some heartache for Biden, considering that he spent a large amount of his time in office so far focusing on climate change, and that was a big platform he used when he was campaigning for the office. Bloomberg has reported that on Tuesday, White House National Economic Council Deputy Director Bharat Ramamurthy said that U.S. oil and gas companies should increase production if they so choose. As it stands today, there are 9,000 unused leases that the U.S. government has provided for oil and gas production, and people are free to use them if they'd like, according to Ramamurthy. He went on to say that the idea that there's some kind of severe restriction on production of oil here in the United States is simply untrue. Biden is facing pressure to lower oil prices, which have helped drive inflation to levels that we have not seen in decades, and is causing a little bit of hurt for all of us at the pump. Obviously, when Russia invaded Ukraine, that just exacerbated the problem and sent West Texas Intermediate to more than $100 a barrel. West Virginia Democratic Senator Joe Manchin is urging the White House to help boost U.S. oil production. We're buying 650,000 barrels of oil a day from Russia, said Manchin. Absolutely ridiculous. In a way, we are literally fueling their war machine by purchasing oil from that country. According to Ramamurti, Biden's administration is taking an all of the above approach when it comes to oil prices, including releasing barrels from our reserves and urging OPEC nations to ramp up production. We cannot release enough barrels of oil to even make a dent in basically the fuel crisis that we have at the pump here in America. Basically make a dent in inflation that has shot upward because of fuel prices. So then what Biden does is he sits back and he just begs these other OPEC nations to up production, because God forbid we up production here in the United States and get oil and coal and all of that running again, because we got to stay on that Green New Deal path. As I preached about yesterday, it gets me. We are so damn worried about environmentalists and so worried about this green energy, which is complete BS, in my opinion. Complete BS. On Tuesday, the U.S. and other major economies agreed to a coordinated release of 60 million barrels from stockpiles around the world. In the United States, they will supply half of those reserves. We have agreed to release 30 million barrels of oil. Be Freed by Cassie Fish has reported that the cattle market has been taking a beating, to say the least, over the last week. But that is not news to you guys. You guys have been experiencing it. This comes at a time when market-ready supplies are at their tightest from now till May. Harvest levels have solidly recovered, and boxed beef values have found or are finding a bottom. According to Fish, CME cattle futures are paralyzed and penalized by the algorithms and the high-frequency traders who focus on geopolitical unrest and a soaring corn market to add volatility and uncertainty. The Chicago Mercantile Exchange has pandered to these entities, expanded daily price limits, and increased margin requirements. The board was once a viable and sensible risk management tool, but has instead turned into something barely recognizable. The fed cattle industry already struggles with leverage in a business where fed cattle processing throughput has never recovered to levels that we saw before COVID hit back in 2020. Any bad news, whether it is cattle related or not, kills both future prices and the psychology of all of us in the industry. Our industry is comprised of human beings that are exhausted from plant fires, pandemics, and now geopolitical unrest. You have to wonder, what will it be next? As I mentioned yesterday, feeder cattle have dropped to the lowest level that they have seen since November, while corn prices continue to shoot upward. We've seen hundreds of thousands of beef cows liquidated over the past year, and will continue to see more go to town if this drought persists. The 2022, 2023, and 2024 calf crops will be smaller each year. But with all of that being said, because of the ungodly rally in corn, feeder cattle futures are spiraling downward. We have almost lost $16 per hundredweight in the last 2 weeks. Fish closed by saying that packer margins did contract about $100 last week, but they are still holding strong, averaging about $300 net as of last week. So they're still doing just fine. That is all I have for you guys this morning. You guys have yourself a wonderful Wednesday. I'll catch you later.